Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the April 12th council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. I hope everyone had a nice holiday and have enjoyed the nice weather that we've been having. Shanisa, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Belstria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mrs. Finney.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here?
Mrs. Teresi.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our council meeting of March 22nd, 2021. I hope everyone has had time to read these minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move, Penny.
Moved by Mrs. Finney,
Second.
second by Mr. Mano. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to those minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Abstain.
I abstain as well. I was absent from the meeting. These minutes are approved as written. Next, we will move to correspondence and announcements. At this time, does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Seeing none, we'll move to the reports of officers, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. A couple of years ago, I first reported that the Mayfield Heights Police Department was beginning the long process towards CALIA accreditation, and I'm proud to report that our police department has received the award of accreditation from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, which is CALIA, on March 26, 2021. This prestigious award indicates that our agency is held to the highest standards regarding police policies, training, and community outreach efforts. The department must not only meet the criteria for accreditation, but they must also show valid proof of compliance to be considered for the award. So congratulations to Chief Bittner and the whole police department for their dedication, their hard work, and their service to our community. You may have noticed a brightly colored police vehicle around town the last couple of weeks. That vehicle is the PD's Autism Awareness Police Car for April. April is Autism Awareness Month. The purpose is to bring awareness to the cause as well as foster a relationship with those with special needs who may be in a crisis. So many of our officers have recently completed crisis intervention training, and we thank the sponsors of the vehicle, which is Allstate in Mayfield Heights and Speed Pro Design. Resurfacing of Gates Mills Boulevard from Cedar to Som is scheduled to begin April and should be completed in June. We'll have further information as the project gets underway. And the city engineer will be conducting sewer evaluations over the next 2 months in the Marnell and Ascot areas. These are dye testing in that area. Green and red dyes may be seen in storm sewers during the testing. And to date, AECOM has performed no, not AECOM, AECOM, that's right, I'm sorry, has performed dye testing on Hawthorne, Gilbert, Byron, Mayfair, Mallard, and Mayflower. The warm weather is right around the corner, and if you have any animal nuisance problems, you can still call the city at 440-442-2626. We will dispatch A&S Animal Control to trap, remove, and relocate any animals that you are having problems with. Please do not trap on your own. A&S will not remove or relocate an animal that they have not trapped themselves. So if you need assistance, please call the city. Real quick, the building department has seen an increase in both residential and commercial plans and projects. 3 new homes in Bridgeport are underway, and soon 3 more. So that's a good news there. Gates Mills Towers, North Parking Garage will be making structural and safety upgrades, which has been a long time coming. And last but not least, we promoted March as a Restaurant Appreciation Month to help increase business for our local restaurants. And all participants have a chance to win over $200 of gift certificates from Teresa's Pizza, Panera Bread, Piccolo's, Dunkin' Donuts, 56 Cafe, and Arabiata's. So I'd like to thank the restaurants for their generous donations, and we wish all the participants the best of luck. And this evening, we are going to pick that winner. And I'm going to let our council president pick, so she gets blamed if somebody,
I know.
she doesn't pick somebody's name.
Thank you.
Okay, that winner is Alan Powell, number 42. Tammy Kleins will contact you to make arrangements to receive your basket. Congratulations, Alan. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? We also have to wish the mayor happy birthday.
Thank you.
Law Director, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a couple of items in relation to the agenda this evening. First of all, with regard to resolution number 2021-30 regarding the variance requested by McDonald's, I was requested to prepare that resolution that is on the agenda, which would reverse the Board of Zoning Appeals and grant the variance as requested by McDonald's. So if council wants to grant the variance as McDonald's requested it, the proper vote would be yes when that comes up for a vote. And I see former Mayor Rinker from Mayfield Village is here with us this evening, and probably as architect. So if any member of council has any questions, I'm sure Mayor Rinker will be more than happy to address those. That's easy. Secondly, with regard to the motion to add, I can't even read my notes here. There was a letter that was mentioned at the last meeting that was addressed to council and the mayor from the city's Architectural Board of Review. And since this, as I said, is a quasi-judicial proceeding with regard to the variance, I would like a motion to add that letter dated March 21st to the record of the McDonald's variance, so that that's something that is very positive for granting the variance and should be in the record. So at this point, if somebody would make a motion to add that to the record and second, and then you can vote on it.
Moved. I make a motion to add the ABR letter to the record.
And moved by Ms. Sabetta and seconded by Mrs. Teresi. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balstria?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you. Finally, while we're talking about motions, there is a motion on this agenda under number 10 regarding the approval of a final site plan. The building department has indicated that there will be several meetings of the Architectural Board of Review prior to that site plan being finally approved. So I would like to just not have that motion voted on this evening until they can get a little further along with the Architectural Board of Review. And then finally, there will be another motion which will be made by Mr. DeJohn to solicit bids for the road program, and that would come under number 10 when the motions are considered. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any questions for the Law Director? Director of Finance, Mrs. Fagan.
Thank you. I have no formal report this evening, but certainly if anybody has any questions, I would entertain those.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Fagan? Okay. Next, we will move to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, starting with the Building Committee. Mrs. Teresi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Our building committee has not met, therefore I have no report.
Thank you. Moving to Finance and Audit, Mr. Balistreo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Legislative Committee, Mrs. Finney.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening.
Public Works and Service, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. The Public Works and Service Committee did meet, and we finalized the 2021 road program at a cost that roughly, and this is an estimate, roughly around $1.9 million. It will include repair of Eastwood, Harker, Geesey, Golden Gate, the residential part, Parkland, corporate entrance, Mayfield Road west of Lander, Bonnie Lane and Bonnie Place, and on Cedar Road, we'll have spot repairs. And on Cedar Road, we will receive $45,000, hopefully, from the county. So I'll make that motion under the motion part of the agenda to place those out for bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeJohn. Any questions for Mr. DeJohn? Recreation and Parks, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The drive-up dinners continue to be a success. Tomorrow will be our next pickup. Thanks to our Honey Baked Ham sponsors, NOPEC, Hospice of the Western Reserve, and Care Patrol. Our next drive-up dinner will be Winking Lizard on May 11th. Registration for residents opens April 14th and non-residents on April 28th. We are excited to announce that our annual Spring Shootout Bocce Tournament will be held on Saturday, May the 8th. This event kicks off the summer bocce season. Do not miss out on our new program at the City Park, Deck Hockey. Registration is open and the spring session begins April 28th. We have 2 youth leagues, K 2nd and 3 through 5 grades. Cost is $75. To learn more about deck hockey, visit our website. First aid class will be held in the fire department on April 28th, and the Heart Saver AED class will be held on May 12th. Both classes will be held in the fire department from 6 to 9 p.m. Registration in advance is required. The fee is $20 per class. The Heart Saver class is for teachers, coaches, fitness professionals, babysitters, scout leaders, and so on. To register for more information on any program, call the Recreation Department at 440-442-2627. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? Safety and Transportation Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to say congratulations to the Mayfield Heights Police Department for all their hard work in receiving the CALIA Award. Thank you for your service. Our city fire department are offering CPR and first aid classes, and a reminder that the residential lockbox and smoke detector programs are available. More information is on their website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any questions? Moving to Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow here in Council Chambers at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the Planning Commission, Mr. Balistreo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Planning Commission did meet on April the 5th, last Monday. Council was copied on the minutes. We do have one motion on the agenda as a result of that meeting, which the Law Director made reference to. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Balistreo. Any questions for the Planning Commission? This time we will move to comments from the public. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, the state of Ohio has established guidelines for public gatherings. In an effort to keep residents, all members of the public, council representatives, and other city employees safe during this time, the City of Mayfield Heights has closed the city council meetings to public attendance. Since public participation and transparency are important values of the city, residents are invited to view the meeting via live streaming and broadcast. Additionally, questions or comments may be submitted to council office by noon Monday, April 12th, by emailing Karen Fagan. I believe Mrs. Fagan does have some correspondence to read this evening. And after she's done speaking, I will go ahead and open up the public portion for anybody that is here this evening with an agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have several letters that were sent in for public reading at the meeting this evening. The first is from Ed and Gina Horniak at 6707 Woodhawk. Hello, we are longtime residents of Woodhawk Drive and are opposed to the multi-purpose trail. The next is from Arthur and Marilyn Baker at 6337 Woodhawk Drive. This is addressed to the mayor and city council. This correspondence is regarding a proposal by the city of Mayfield Heights to renovate Woodhawk Drive by eliminating the sidewalk on the north side of the street, adding tree lawn, bike trail, opening end of street access, etc. We are owners of the second new home built on Woodhawk Drive in 1983. We adamantly oppose the above proposal for numerous reasons. We and other neighbors have contacted the mayor and city council voicing our opinion about this issue. The residents should have been notified of this project when the idea was conceived. We are against the project and do not want the grant approved. If it has been approved, we want it canceled. The project is not in the best interest of residents or the public. We are adamantly against the project. The next letter is from Boris Frankel and Irene Krukowitz. It is addressed to all of council. This letter is to inform the city council that I and my family are standing against building the bike trail at the Woodhawk Drive, narrowing the street and opening the dead end for the bike and pedestrian traffic. I do not want the projected grant approved for this purpose and ask the council to use it to finance other improvements in the city of Mayfield Heights, including repaving our street. The next letter is from Diana Gresta at 6320 Woodhawk. It is addressed to the mayor, to the council, and was also sent to NOACA. It reads, my family and I have lived in our Woodhawk Drive home since 1987. When purchasing this home, we looked specifically for one that was located on a dead-end street. Although there is quite a bit of traffic coming from the Woodhawk Club condos, we have found the street to provide much tranquility as we are situated beyond the condominium entrance. When we first learned of the proposed connectivity project, I tried without success to access the information regarding the plans on the Mayfield Heights City website. Unable to locate that information, I had to request the file to be emailed to me from a neighbor who learned of this project in late 2020. We were not aware of an email or electronic survey that was circulated. We would think the city would be interested in finding out what the views of the residents were and how it would be affecting them. After gathering the information about this bike path and the opinions from other Woodhawk Drive residents, we too are concerned over the issues regarding our safety, our property values, and worry over what the added access the bikers would bring. Everyone that I've spoken to from our street and those of the condominiums are totally against this proposed bike path. Traffic coming out of the condos is concerning as many of the drivers fail to stop before moving up onto the street. If they're unable to catch view of an oncoming car, what will they do with a biker? A driver in a vehicle would have more protection than someone on a bike. Residents pulling out of their driveways, even though looking both ways, may not be able to spot a biker at their rate of speed. The amount of young children and toddlers on the street that are outside learning to ride bikes, skating, sidewalk chalking, and playing ball would be another issue. The landscapers block a good portion of the road when they load and reload their equipment. EMT trucks would make countless trips to the condos. What would happen in the event of a house fire if the street were narrowed, seeing that there's only one access out? We are against this proposed project and would like to see the money put into other improvements in the city. The next letter is from Holly and Matt Holliday at 6564 Woodhawk Drive. It is addressed to the mayor, to the council, and to Sean Ward. I am writing to you today to say that not everyone on Woodhawk Drive is against the proposed multi-purpose path and narrowing of Woodhawk Drive. My husband and I believe the addition of this path and narrowing the road would improve the living conditions on the street. I understand that my neighbors are afraid of increased crime and traffic on this road due to the multi-use path. However, proximity to bike and hiking trails is often sought after by home buyers who wish to live active and healthy lifestyles. By far, the majority of people who would use this said pathway would be those who enjoy fitness and communing with nature, not criminals peeping into garages. However, we do live in a city, and everyone should already be executing reasonable caution by locking our doors and not leaving our belongings unattended. I believe that narrowing the road would automatically decrease speeding along this street, which is a major safety issue. Currently, the volume of traffic that speeds on the street makes it dangerous for children and anyone trying to cross the street. Also, the increased noise created by cars speeding up and down our street currently detracts from property values. By narrowing the street, cars will have to slow down and stop to allow traffic to pass when a car or service vehicle is parked on the side of the street. Not only that, traffic will be naturally slowed due to the perception that narrower streets imply slower speeds. As for our wonderful street being a great place to walk dogs and push strollers, that is true for only about 2/3 of the year. As a dog owner, I can attest that over 95% of the homeowners on this street fail to keep their sidewalks free from snow during the winter months. They allow their plow companies to leave huge mounds of snow, completely blocking pedestrians from use of the sidewalks, not to mention the sidewalks covered with up to a foot of snow. This has created a safety hazard for anyone who has to walk from the apartments or condos at the end of Woodhawk Drive to local stores for groceries, supplies, and those trying to exercise or walk their dogs by forcing us to walk on the busy street in traffic. So, if the proposed path would be kept free of snow during the winter months, this would be a huge benefit to those who need this neighborhood to be safe for walking all year round. As for those concerned that individuals walking dogs and pushing strollers would somehow be crowded off the path by those riding bikes, there will still be a sidewalk on the opposite side of Woodhawk Drive. I have walked my dog at local metro parks where people often ride their bikes without any danger or issues. Though I know I don't speak for the majority of Woodhawk residents, I encourage my neighbors to consider the benefits of this path and the narrowing of the street. Direct access to a bike and hiking path will be a feature that will attract potential home buyers to their properties. The narrower street will naturally slow traffic and reduce traffic noise and increase safety for everyone. And finally, this plan has the potential to provide a safe, clear path for those who need to walk during the winter months. Our next letter is from Aaron and Frida Seamus at 6373 Woodhawk Drive. My husband Aaron and I have lived very happily on Woodhawk Drive for about 35 years. To our dismay, we recently were made aware of your plans to reconfigure Woodhawk Drive, known as the Woodhawk Community Connector Program. In order to resurface the street, which has been in bad condition for years, and I might add, patched poorly over the years, we feel all that is necessary is for the street and sidewalks to be fixed properly and replaced. The city of Mayfield Heights has failed us miserably when it comes to keeping our streets in good condition. Where are our tax dollars going? We even voted for a tax issue in order to keep the street in tip-top condition. It is our understanding that many changes are being planned for our street by the city council, and most of the neighbors were not informed properly of the plans. We all found out by accident. We're in total agreement with all of our neighbors who also feel that this connectivity program is not how we envision Woodhawk Drive, and it is not in the best interest of the homeowners. That is why the majority of neighbors have rejected this horrible concept. My husband and I reject this plan 100%. It will most definitely cause more issues going forward. Our home sits on the corner next to the entrance to the Woodhawk condominiums, and we experience heavy traffic entering the condos constantly throughout the day. We have no guarantee that narrowing Woodhawk Drive will slow down traffic. Speeders only understand speeding tickets. The proposed bike path is totally unnecessary. Because our kids are safest riding on our existing sidewalks, we are fortunate to have sidewalks on both sides of our street in our neighborhood. An asphalt bike path is unsightly and doesn't improve the appearance of our beloved Woodhawk Drive. It is obvious that most of the residents, including those living in the condos, are unhappy with this plan, and the mayor and city council should listen and understand that our homes are being directly affected. Neither the mayor nor any of the city council members reside on Woodhawk Drive. Our next letter is from Robert and Janine Hasey at 6432 Woodhawk Drive. My husband and I have been Mayfield Heights residents for over 50 years and built a home at 6432 Woodhawk Drive 35 years ago. We were charged with a $20,000 bond issue to help defray the cost of widening the street to accommodate the extra traffic, due to the street being the only access road to enter and exit the condominium complex, and to allow emergency vehicles faster access to the condos as well. When we moved here, the traffic was tolerable. However, several years later, additional apartments and condos were built, which at least doubled the amount of traffic on our street, as well as more speeding and some occasional knocking down of mailboxes and fire hydrants. Luckily, no pedestrians were injured or killed. The reduction of the width of our street with this new plan is a terrible and unsafe idea. Between mail and delivery trucks, landscaping trucks, emergency vehicles, school buses, and the occasional semi-trucks, and of course, regular condo and homeowner cars and trucks, on any given day, trying to navigate, which is difficult on a dead-end street currently. The narrowing of our street will make our street more dangerous and congested. Also, our pedestrians, dog walkers, moms and dads pushing strollers, and all those who currently are safe on our existing sidewalks must remain safe. The occasional bike rider is perfectly fine riding in the street. They are very few and infrequent in number, just like bike riders on all other Mayfield Heights roads. Please, other than resurfacing, do not change our street. The next letter is from Wayne Natale at 6440 Woodhawk Drive. And it reads, during the past 3 council meetings, you have heard from at least 15 residents of Woodhawk Drive and the adjacent Woodhawk Club condominiums. These letters represent the voices of over 700 people who disapprove of any effort to narrow Woodhawk Drive or install a multi-purpose trail down our street. At the end of the March 22nd meeting, Mr. Balestrea made a few notable comments and was silent on other critical points. 1, there was nor has there been any comment in any of these meetings about city's efforts to pursue a grant from NOACA to pursue a plan, not a proposal clearly outlining the documented plan to narrow Woodhawk and install a 10-foot wide bike path. The city has spent money to send several mailers to residents over the past few months, not one mentioning this effort. Where was your transparency? 2, Mr. Balestrea remarked that there is no plan, in fact, stated that this was just one of multiple proposals being considered to address Woodhawk Drive. Your Woodhawk connector slideshow calls this effort a plan, not a proposal. If there are other proposals, why haven't they been shared with members of the community? He indicated that we should keep these other proposals under our hats. It appears to us that this has been your strategy all along, keeping things under your hat and hoping that Woodhawk residents aren't paying attention. Well, shame on us for not paying closer attention in 2018 and 2019 when these efforts took shape, but shame on you for not being forthright and clear on exactly what you were proposing or planning on Woodhawk Drive. Number 3, Mr. Balestrea further stated that the overwhelming majority of homeowners were against this. He wouldn't support it. However, how much more evidence do you need? You have the signatures of 70 of 82 residents against this and letters from the Woodhawk Club condominiums expressing the same. Why not enter a motion to kill this proposal? Clearly, there is no support for the narrowing of Woodhawk Drive and the installation of a 10-foot wide trail 30 feet from the homeowners' front doors and across 40 active driveways. Over 2,000 laser tags have been issued by the Woodhawk Club for residents' autos to access their complex. That alone should tell you the volume of traffic the street sees daily. At this point, you have failed to come up with a creative solution to meet with us during the pandemic. You were offered ideas on how this could have been done safely over a month ago. If you have other proposals, why haven't they been shared? Here's the solution in the way of a proposal for you. Run your trail straight down Marsall Road, right along with your efforts to widen the path under the 271 underpass. There is plenty of room on the cemetery side of Marsall to give you a direct connect to Somme Center without placing the city and your residents at risk with your Woodhawk plan. Here's another thought. Why haven't you discussed putting this trail where it's needed, right down the center of Gates Mills Boulevard from the Circle to Cedar Road? We sincerely hope that on Friday, NOACA will take into consideration the concerns and information we have presented to them for their April 9th meeting and refuse to provide the funding for this plan. It appears that the motivation for the Woodhawk connector has always been to get someone else to pay for our needed street repair. This is not an appropriate use of NOACA funds. The next letter is from Rachel Chance, and I apologize, I probably just really butchered Rachel's last name. Rachel's at 180 Fox Hollow Drive. The letter is addressed to the mayor and to all of City Council. And it states that she has lived in Woodhawk Club for almost a decade, coming from Pepper Pike. The residents prevail, be it no traffic lights, no new developments, and in the planning of an existing green space and adding lots of native plants to mature landscape, providing a safe and tranquil space that was formerly inaccessible. Several weeks ago, I found out about the projected Woodhawk Drive walking/cycling trail proposal and thought a fervent and frequent walker, I cannot emphasize how distressing this proposal is. Firstly, there are sidewalks to walk on both sides of the street, and they are well used. I can tell you that there is always a large vehicle parked somewhere on that street, and usually quite a few, as the cable companies and the utilities and even city trucks are here frequently. As is, the street can be challenging for seniors needing space to get out around a passing car, and we have quite a few. Ask your fire department. There are also a lot of speeding cars, so when I think about all those little kids on tricycles, it becomes even scarier to contemplate narrowing the much-needed space that was designed with appropriate urban planning for the additional 750 to 1,000 vehicles coming into our enclave more than once a day. When the voters like myself voted for more trails, such as our neighboring suburbs like Beechwood, Mayfield Village, Pepper, Shaker, et al., the common denominator is trails in wooded and/or verdant and/or underused and/or empty space areas that promote physical and emotional well-being, so required in our modern, high-tech, too crowded, busy lives. Healthcare professionals stress that people need to find quiet outdoor spaces to recharge, not create a dangerous, congested suburban street scene. Just because we can does not mean we should. My recommendation is that you work with an urban planner and then a landscape architect to find an appropriate space as outlined above in Mayfield Heights. If nothing can be found that would safely and add value to our lives and our properties, then the need of good planning for other upcoming projects becomes even more apparent. We gave you our trust with a 0.5% tax increase and our monies to buy into an existing safe and sound and well-planned street. We want our wishes to be respected. No trails required or wanted on Woodhawk Drive. Our last letter is from Al Zarzor at 6344 Woodhawk Drive, again addressed to the mayor and all members of council. I have lived on Woodhawk Drive since the very beginning of its development, almost 37 years. I, along with the vast majority of residents and the Woodhawk condominium associations, strongly oppose the plan to narrow the street and develop a multi-use trail. There are a multitude of safety concerns associated with this plan. Woodhawk Drive is a heavily traveled and congested road, and narrowing it will only add to the congestion and safety of our residents. Adding a multi-use trail will invite more cars to be parked on the street, as it will become a destination for walkers and bikers. I respect everyone's right to walk and bike anywhere they wish, but to turn our street into a Metro Park-type trail makes no sense. People have the ability to drive or walk throughout the city to our own Mayfield Heights City Park or the local Metro Parks. It is unacceptable to tie this plan to the much-needed repair of the street. Just recently, signs were posted to lock your cars and hide your valuables, yet the city's plan will possibly cause further safety concerns for the residents of Woodhawk Drive. Please drop this proposal and listen to the feelings of your residents. And that concludes the letters that we have received.
Thank you so much, Karen, for reading all those letters. If there's anyone here tonight that would like to speak on an item that's on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Forward. Mr. Mulchin?
John Molchan, 1966 Reed Square Trail in West Woodhawk. I understand it's going to be tabled, I'm okay with that, but I won't be here at your next meeting because I'm going to be out of town. So I just address what the few changes are from the preliminary site plan that's previously approved. They are all changes that have been requested by the planning commission in their initial review. We added a stop sign at the east driveway and a cross-traffic does not stop sign. There's a stop sign at the west end of the driveway, slow traffic before it merges into the Comfort Inn driveway. There's a stop sign in the Comfort Inn driveway. There was a transformer pad added. There was a braking issue at the northwest corner that caused us to reroute the road slightly, but it's still the maximum width allowed by code at 24 feet wide. And we added a landscaping plan, and if anybody has any questions, like I said, I can't be here in 2 weeks. But if you have questions now, even if you're not going to vote on the issue.
Can we go ahead and answer questions? Yeah. Does any member of council have any questions for Mr. Mulchin? Okay.
I don't have a
Mr.
question, but I have a
Mayor.
comment. I know you're going before ABR in this Thursday, right? Yeah, so you're going to present the landscape plan, correct, that evening? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. All right. Thanks, John.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mulchin. Is there anyone else that like Mr. Rinker?
Good evening, Bruce Rinker, 1000 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 1400. I'm not here to talk about trails,
Thank you.
but in all candor, I just kind of want to give a footnote to the discussion that I know you've had previously and also Board of Zoning Appeals, ABR, Planning Commission with the proposed McDonald's redevelopment. You know, many of you here are aware that the way McDonald's works is to invest a lot of importance in a project, but it's really the operator. The business model for McDonald's really has the operator putting equity into the deal. Tony Filio, to my knowledge, is one of the earliest historically of the McDonald's operators. They have numbers, and I think he's in a single digit, he may be in a low double digit. And over the years, he's taken a lot of pride, he's pretty tenacious in making the improvements to the McDonald's. It's a meeting place. It's unusual for a McDonald's to have this kind of history and the longevity that this particular site has had. Some of you will recall that over the years, and if I'm repeating anything that my partner Tony Coyne has, I apologize, but I just thought it's worth noting that there really is kind of a special aspect to this, where one time cars were lining up on the two side streets, and the city approached Mr. Filio to buy an adjacent property and expand the parking field. Fast forward to today, and the Mayfield Road corridor really looks to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment. And the challenge is you have such a highly developed thoroughfare, how do you work through it? And this is a project that's going to be a few $1 million. There was a lot of discussion, and I think a lot of give and take between where the code is, where the architectural review board is, and just overall the purpose that Mr. Filio has invested in trying to make this place recapture that sense of the meeting place. You need parking, but reducing the parking, providing the landscaping, a lot of these other features, this took a lot of effort on everyone's part, and we appreciate it. We think we've gotten to this point, and I know you voted previously, but just for the record, we want to remind everyone that it's the McDonald's name and brand that's on the building.
Thank you, Mr. Rinker. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Okay, it is 8 o'clock, and I will close the public portion. We will begin with Resolution 2021-29. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2021-29, a resolution opposing House Bill 157, amending the law regarding withholding municipal earned income tax for those working virtually and/or at home. Second reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Manos, second by Mr. Balestria. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
yes,
Mr. Belstria,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes,
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mrs. Finney. This was placed on first reading last meeting and suggested by our finance director that our state representatives were addressed in the text of the ordinance. In section 2 of this ordinance, the state representative names are now listed: Governor Mike DeWine, Honorable Juanita Brent, and Honorable Kenny Yuko. Is there anything further you would like to add, Mrs. Fagan? Okay. Any questions from council? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Teresi,
yes,
Mrs. Sabetta,
yes,
Mrs. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Belstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2021-19 has now been approved. Resolution 2021-30, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2021-30, a resolution reversing the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights regarding the request by Larson Architects on behalf of McDonald's, 6225 Mayfield Road, for a variance from Section 1191.06A of the codified ordinances to install signage above the parapet wall. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Numbers 862-01-001, 862-01-002, 862-01-003, and 862-01-004 by granting the variance as requested. First reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend? Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved
By
Finney.
Mr. Mano, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Belstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi,
yes,
Mrs. Sabetta,
yes,
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mrs. Tressi, second by Mr. Balestria. During the law director's report, he mentioned, and we added the ABR letter to the record. This ordinance would be proper procedure if we are going to overturn the BZA's ruling. Does any member of council have any questions or comments?
Yes.
yes,
Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs.
Mr. DeJohn.
Is Mr. Murphy going to read? Is he going to read that?
Oh, the letter from the
The
ABR?
letter? Uh-huh.
No, that was added at the last meeting to the,
Okay,
that's
so
what-
I was
that's what-
absent from that meeting, okay.
right. Did you get a copy of the letter?
I don't believe so. I don't remember seeing it, but that's not to say I didn't get it. But I do have a question. May I ask?
Mr. DeJohn.
So do we know why this was voted down by the BZA 3-2, right? Was,
Mrs. Sabetta, would you like to answer that?
they felt there was not a practical difficulty. They did not see a practical difficulty. Two of us saw a practical difficulty. I'm sure Monica sent you a letter to read. If you would read the ABR letter, you would understand that they are saying that this blade with the logo is needed in their design for the Mayfield Road design.
so you're saying that this sign complies with the Mayfield Road Corridor Plan?
I'm not
Mrs.
saying
Sabetta.
that. I'm not saying that. I
I-
voted that there was a practical difficulty with the ABR stating that this blade is what they wanted to see on their building, and that Mr. Jameson stated they needed a variance for it. That is why the ABR, which is also on the application by the applicant.
Okay.
Did you need any other clarification? I think Mr. Jameson is here. Did you want him to speak?
Well, the ABR then wrote the letter you're speaking of, saying that they suggested that we pass this and overrule the BZA. Is that correct? Is that?
That is correct.
Mr. Murphy?
Okay. No, I don't need to speak with him. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Belstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes,
Mrs. Teresi. Yes. Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2021-30 has been approved. Resolution 2021-31, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2021-31, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an amendment to the agreement with the city engineer, Glass, Pyle, Schomer, Burns, and DeHaven, Inc., DBA GPD Group, to provide professional services as owner's representative in connection with the design and construction of the Mayfield Heights Aquatic Center and the Community Center, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano.
Second.
Second by Mr. Balestrea. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta,
yes,
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Belstria,
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi. Yes. Mrs. Finney,
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move, Finney.
Moved by Mrs. Finney, second by Mrs. Teresi. Discussion. This evening, we had a committee of the whole meeting prior to our council meeting. We heard from the GPD group explaining their proposed roles as the owner's rep for this project. To recap, an owner's rep would oversee the project, ensuring that the needs are met and that the project comes in on time and under budget. This would be at a cost of $427,000 plus reimbursables. Are there any questions for Mrs. Teresi?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do have a question after listening to Mrs. Fagan read all those letters about Woodhawk. Have we gone out to the Sunningdale residents? Have we brought them in so they know what is going on that Marsall property?
A letter was sent to all the Sunningdale residents that abut that property, and they all received it. I talked with 4 of them, and they get it, they understand it. I think what they all have relayed to me is that they'd like a new fence to protect their backside. Right now, the fence that's there now is pretty old and dilapidated. There's been no major concern of them behind us. Comment that one lady made.
I did get one email from one of the residents who was worried about the noise from maybe a lifeguard with a whistle or kids playing in the pool, and only one email. So I don't know when you reached out to her, but no, I apologize. I don't remember her name, and I didn't bring my laptop, but I'll send it to you. So I just want to make sure we're not in the same situation where they don't know, they're not happy. Let's make sure they're happy before we start down this path. So Mrs. Fagan doesn't have to read 15 letters from the residents.
Possibly,
Oh, there was only 12. Last week, there was 13. Oh, okay, that's good. And I do have one more question. Am I allowed to ask
sure.
a second
Mrs.
question?
Teresi, go ahead.
So I just, in GPD's letter, the the fourth paragraph, it says, due to the topography of the parcel, it may lend itself to design either a single or two-story building. Will that, in fact, change all of the costs if in between we decide we're going to do a two-story building, or?
Mark Salopek. No, the budget is what it is. Whether it's 2 stories or 1 stories, it's still going to be the same.
It's still going to be the same? Okay.
Yeah. And we'll go through that during the design process and look at alternatives. We're going to suggest the architect doesn't come with you with just one option. We'll suggest that they bring multiple options to you so you can make some informed decisions.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
I do.
Mrs. Tressi?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
So I'm just wondering who is going to, who from the city or who in general is going to select the committee, I guess it's called, the selection committee?
The CMR.
With this, the mayor's office and GPD?
I'm sorry, can I?
Mayor, go ahead.
We'll do it as a group. I mean, we've already met. We have Matt from BZA, who's a member of the, Matt Maddock, who's a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, who's very knowledgeable about these things. So we kind of have a small group together, but already. But as we move forward, we're going to see what GPD suggests and who they believe we should get into the core group, and then we'll go from there.
And will council know who you've selected to be in this group?
I would think council should know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn? Anybody else? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Belstria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2021-31 has been adopted. Moving to Resolution 2021-32, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2021-32, a resolution awarding a contract to Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company, Inc., for the Wharton Boulevard Reconstruction Project in accordance with the bid specifications and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. DeJohn, second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Belstria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. DeJohn, second by Mrs. Teresi. With the recommendations from the city engineer, Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company was the lowest bid that we received for this project. The project projected total to be roughly $1.6 million. It was the lowest and best bid. Does any member of council have any questions or comments? Mrs. Teresi.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just have one question for Mr. Gerson, and that is actually just about, in general, the road program. Are we still keeping Ashcroft in the mix for spring of 2021?
If I could.
Mr. Gerson, sure.
Yeah, yes, we opened bids for Ashcroft on this past Friday. We're reviewing those bids now. They did come in relatively attractive, so once we review the contractors and the bids, we'll make a presentation or a recommendation, most likely at the next council meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Will those, I have a question for Mr.
Yes.
Gerson. Will those include the curbs and the whole area, just Ashcroft?
Yeah, so the Ashcroft area project includes, Ashcroft is the main road with all little side streets that kind of loop around. So the project is basically to saw cut the curbs out, basically at a 30-inch width, replace them in concrete, and then repave the center section. So what the residents will see right now, they They see a concrete curb, very little of it, very much not existing because it's been paved over. When it's done, they'll see a new 30-inch wide concrete curb, and then the center, they'll see asphalt. So there's a few streets, and I'll send that out to you again. I don't have them offhand, but there's a few streets that are kind of designed like that in the city that it will be well maintained. And this will basically get the water to the catch basins. There'll be a couple catch basins added. The drive aprons will be replaced from the sidewalk to the curb so that we can get the curb in. So there'll be some disruption of traffic, driveways. So please bear with us while we get the contract going. But we'll do our best to make sure the contract does a good job also. That's related to Ashcroft. This one's on Wharton. Same idea on Wharton. Wharton's going to be similar to what we did on Commonwealth and Genesee. If you remember, both those projects were done by Trimore. They did bid on this project, but they were not the lowest and the best contractor for this project. And Fabrizi should be a good contractor that can do the job well, and they come highly recommended.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other further questions? Thank you. All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Belstria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution has now been adopted. We have no ordinances this evening, so we will move to motions. And I believe there is a motion from Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to solicit bids for the 2021 road program to include Eastwood, Parker, Geesey, Golden Gate, the residential area, Parkland corporate entrance, Mayfield Road, west of Lander, Bonnie Lane, Cedar Road, and Cedar Road.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Balstraya. We heard from Councilman DeJohn making the recommendation for soliciting the bids. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Belstria.
Yes.
Mrs. Teresi.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes?
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this motion has been approved. Next, we will move to new business or comments from council. Is there new business or any comments from this council this evening? The only comment that I have is I wanted to say that the Keep Mayfield Beautiful waste cans are looking nice around the city. I noticed them on Sound Center. I know we waited for those for a while, so they look really nice. Hopefully, people will use them. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mrs. Teresi, second by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. We are now adjourned.